People ask all the time. Well, today you're going to get the answers, and we're going to get some more progress done this Ford Super Duty Franken truck creation that has just really been fun to build. It's really let's just start with this operation. Whole lot of that. A little bit of this. And a little bit of luxury. Off we go. We're going to torch these old brackets off. I'm not going to waste the time fighting those bolts. Why start at a 1 when you can jump straight to an 11, you know? When you get the shaft cleaned up next, we had to weld this piece of steel, beat this shaft out of the PTO pump, get her all cleaned up. So this is reality YouTube. We're gonna work while we talk, but we're gonna address probably the biggest questions I get all the time, consistently across the channel. I wish your videos were longer. You should get more progress done than what you do. And is there a lot of work in having a YouTube channel? These are all great questions. I don't think any of them are ever meant in a negative light. I think it's just people that want more content because they like what we got going on. Better turn my gas off before I lose all of it. Retractable cord reels, worth every penny. But everything I got going on over the next few days is gonna answer all of those questions. And this isn't a justifying anything to anybody. It's simply just entertaining the curiosity of the people that have asked. And also being a little informative, so if anybody ever decides to make a channel, at least you kind of know what you got coming for you. Then we'll take a flap wheel, we'll clean everything up, all the beat marks from the sledgehammer. So for starters, it's about 8:30 right now, which is a pretty late start for a productive day. No denying it. If the only thing you're doing that day is working on the task. But I'll tell you this, running a YouTube channel is just like running a business. There's a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff that has to happen to make the actual filming work out. It's a fine piece of looking metal there. I'm gonna run some acetone across it. We will go ahead and get this painted up. Eye protection, face protection, earring protection. Earring? What even is that? Hearing protection. The more I work on this stuff, the more important I realize it is. And after a recent pulmonary function test with a lung age of 54, I ordered some respirators too, because that just can't be good. Gloves for acetone should also be on that list. Is it silly to take the time to paint this when it's just going to be a shaft that no one sees? A little bit. I'll lose about an inch in there. We'll just set the pump up in here. New hydraulic hoses is on the list as well. These are all pretty dry rot cracked, quite a bit of braiding exposed. These look like some homemade brackets somebody used on that other parts truck I got. The brackets that were on the F-350 were pretty rot and shot, so we need something new. I think this would be plenty beefy. I'm not so sure we couldn't, as long as it is, through bolt it from the frame and just have it hang under like that to catch the pump where it needs to go. Good thing I saved a bunch of these random pieces of exhaust. We're gonna have to be building our own. I don't know if we'll get to that in this video or not, but I hope so. It went here, it went. It went under this cross member, over that bracket like that. So I'm gonna make sure wherever I put that bracket, it's not gonna be in the way of that. Well, I think we'd be okay on the bracket there, dodging the exhaust. I'm gonna be way too close there though, and too low. I'm not against shortening this collar and shortening that shaft overall though, if it means everything's tucked in a little bit neater. As far as starting around 8:30, about the late start, thing of it is, as much as I'd love to just wake up, come over here and start working, it never works out that way. For starters, I really try to do a decent work-life balance. So I try to be around in the mornings whenever the kiddos are around in the mornings. But the biggest time-consuming thing is the emails and the comments. Today is a post day. On average, we're around 3,500 comments a month right now. And I'm not complaining. Heck, I wish it was 10,000 comments a month, but I do make an effort to at least read every single one of them. I might not have the time to reply to all of them, but I do want to read them because every now and then there's some good tips and tricks in there. So that can be time consuming, especially on a post day. The other thing is all the emails that I get from potential partnerships, potential collaborations, things like that. And then of course, a big time consuming chunk of it is just hunting down parts, which means I don't have somebody hunting down the parts I need to use. I got to track them down myself, and that can definitely take time. So average for me would be 8:30 for the average start for when I actually get to start doing production. So if a fella is thinking about starting a channel, just realize very rarely is it just wake up and film. There's a lot that goes into it. And I know I could do a lot of that stuff in the evening when there's no daylight to be wasted, but again, that work-life, family-life balance thing, I take it pretty seriously. And if the kiddos and the family are home, I try everything I can to be over there instead of working on stuff. It doesn't always work out that way, and we don't always have the opportunity, but I try to set it up that way. We're going to drop this back down to where it was, and then we'll get a piece of tubing to raise the pump up so it's high enough and it can run straight into that PTO shaft there. That's the plan. Well, let's see if we can zip that on real quick. Then we can get the pump mounted up or sit on there. Lift with the back. Twisty, jerky motion. Okay. Now I gotta be that low to let the exhaust up and over that bracket, but I need the pump to be up just a little higher. I mean, something like that's really pretty perfect. Get you straight across that cross member. I need to trim this sleeve up just a little bit too. That's good because we boogered the heck out of it when we were beating it off there. And we'll still be able to leave that grease zerk. Not that it does a whole heck of a lot of good, but. So if the height of this block is what I need, 2.5. I think I got an idea. The next thing I need to do, I need to transfer these holes all right. Make sure those line up okay. Yeah, they look real good. So I marked where the pump's gonna go. Right there, I need to clip this corner just a little bit. So I got that clipped. It's gonna go right there. Right down the glove hole. That turned out pretty decent. That's a decent solid looking bracket. And with the access from the back, we should be able to get a good ratcheting wrench in there to kind of button everything up when it comes time to mounting it. And that would be the access from the back side, which would be the best spot. Our next step would be getting this all cleaned up and painted. And if all I did was get to work on this stuff nonstop with none of the other facets of YouTube, well, then that's what I'd be doing. I'm telling you, the cord reels are worth every penny. But I actually got a cool opportunity today. It's about 11:30. I gotta go get cleaned up. One of our local high schools has a media class, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to do a podcast there to talk to them about having a YouTube channel, kind of what it takes, what it entails, And well, you know, the same things we're talking about now. And just like that, it's 3 o'clock. Podcast went great, by the way. It was a pretty cool thing that they did there. Not only did we go past the high school, but we also stopped past the machine shop, picked up our exhaust manifolds. Not bad. Heads are all cleaned up right on those. We got to do quite a bit of rust restoration work on this, but before we get started on that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish getting this cleaned up and get a coat of primer and paint on it. I don't know. Think I have my temperature up high enough? Shouldn't have any issue with penetration on that one, that's for sure. Next thing, I want to get these manifolds cleaned up. Now, these are pretty rough. There's no denying it. I don't know if you can see the extent of the pitting there, but it's pretty bad. Rust jacked the serial number almost right off the thing. But they're also incredibly expensive, so we're going to clean them up and run them as long as they last. Step one, I just cut these off whenever I took them off the truck for obvious reasons. So we got to try to get those bolts out of there. So one of these has an open end on it, and the other one goes up into it. The ones with the open end, we're going to try the old wax trick first. I've had decent success with it on some undercarriage, and I've seen people have decent success with it on undercarriages. I'm hoping with that open end, I might have some success with it on this manifold. What you're supposed to do, now I don't have a candle over here with me, but I do have some of our wax fire starters. The idea is you melt that wax and it should pull itself down around the threads. Oh yeah, it's working really well. You know, the other option here is just do my best at washing those nuts and then running a tap and just reusing those studs. Probably going to have a better outcome than trying to get the studs out and get new studs in. There's that one. There it is. There's that one. Doesn't look like I got into the threads much. Definitely have to clean up with the tap, but I think we're okay on that one. I keep saying tap, but I don't mean tap, whatever the opposite of a tap is. And just like that, the Admiral called. She's got a flat tire. Now we're gonna go do that instead, and I'll see you in a couple days, because even though I'm off tomorrow, I have so many errands, I won't even make it to the shop. It is the following day. The tire adventure went just fine. And I was wrong about the errands taking all day. I got about an hour to work, so we got that going for us. Nothing quite like taking a good surfaced gasket edge and then laying it down on some steel to really get it marred up before you put it on the block, you know. This bed is sold, by the way. There's a fella coming to pick it up in a couple days. Just torched enough off there we can get that bolt off. This one didn't quite go as well. We'll see what happens here. Well, I was able to clean 3 out of the 4, but I definitely trashed this one. So I got this nut here over top of it. I'm going to use the stick welder. All right. I want to go ahead and get the little drip edges, drip gutters, whatever you want to call them, some sealer down on those. The sealer I got says it takes 48 hours to dry before you can do paint. And I'd kind of like to get that done and on here while it's at a good workable height. And that way it's got plenty of time to dry before we put the cab back on. It says to clean it out first. We'll do that with some acetone. I'm also going to do this seam right here too. Now it'll probably end up looking not the best, but I can see a void space in there. Mask this off. That's what everybody says. Run a mask line. It'll kind of help keep it a little bit neater. This is what we're going to use. I went down to my local mom and pop shop and they suggested that. You can see that seam there and that seam that runs across the top. We showed it before, but what that does, that ends up leaking. You get water up in there and it rots out those panels. We're going to lay it in there and we'll try to smooth it out best we can. I assume I just pretty much want to fill the whole thing up. Just going to make a few passes, and it was advised me to pretty much just fill it up. So that's what it looks like after pulling the tape off. I think it looks pretty good. I think that's going to keep any of the rainwater out of that section anyway. In an absolute rarity, it's the following morning and it's 7:30. We're getting an early start today. Time lapse, voiceover. So finally, after getting everything fabricated up for the PTO pump mount and getting a new transmission mount, which we're going to be putting in here in just a second as well, we can finally get the cross member, the PTO pump attached, bolted into place, and the shaft put back into place. So everything will be good to go and we can go ahead and move on down the frame because this section will be finished. But the point that I'm trying to make is just like my videos are absolutely all over the place, my life is all over the place as well. And normally the projects that we're working on that we decide to make content about rarely even make the top 10 priority as far as that goes. Trust me, I would love to make longer videos and I would love to put out more content. Here's the transmission mount I was talking about. Bad transmission mount, those bolts were free spinning, so I couldn't get the nuts to tighten down. Anyway, we picked up a new one. 17 bucks, no problem there. But right now I don't have a way to put out more content or to put out longer videos unless I sacrifice one of two things, which is the video quality, which I don't really want to do because I'm pretty happy with the videos that we're putting out, or that work-life balance that I have, which I definitely don't want to do either. I love working. I always have enjoyed working, but I have the opportunity in life where I'm at now to spend quite a bit of time at home with the kids and the family and traveling and doing fun things like that. And to me, honestly, that's more important. So we get the videos that we get the quantity that we get, and we just deal with it. It works out pretty well for the channel. If I put more stuff out, I might be able to grow faster. If I put longer videos out, we might be able to get longer view durations and get paid more for it. But I'm pretty happy with where we are at. And even with all of that being said, as far as is it worth it to start a channel, which people ask me about all the time, it is a tremendous amount of work, and we didn't even talk about the time that it takes to editing or the things that I had to teach myself to learn how to edit. I still think it's worth it. I think it's very rewarding, and I'm definitely glad we do it. And I'm glad you guys are here supporting us so that we can do it. Check out the drive shaft clearance prop. Now that's fancy. So I'm looking at the tank here, and I'm going to go ahead and clean it up and paint it, or at least get that process started. But I'm not going to mount it on the frame of the truck. Got the old frame over here I can show you for an example. Here's where the tank was mounted. We'll have to put plates on the subframe for the dump bed, and what I'll do is what they did. I'll weld my supports to those plates that attach that subframe to the dump bed on there. That way I'm not welding and drilling a bunch of new holes into the frame. We'll have to add some holes for those plates, but all this will go on that. So we can't mount the tank until that's a thing. But no reason we can't go ahead and get this one cleaned up. You know, a fella might reach out to Summit Hydraulics. If you remember, we put that universal third function kit on the backhoe. They came out with that higher GPM third flow kit. It installed easy, it worked great. I'm actually headed up, I think next week or the week after, to go buy a grapple for the backhoe, which I'm super excited about. I may reach out to them, see if I can't get an electric valve for this, you know, really snazz this thing up a little bit. Well, that came off way different than I thought. That's just a jam nut, huh? Uh-huh. Well, we learned something there. Okay. Back over to the paint booth. We're going to use engine enamel for the primer because it seems to do pretty well with oil. The directions on this brand say 2 light coats and then a really heavy wet coat. And that's what we'll do. Give that about 15 minutes. We'll hit it again. These came out looking better after the evaporust, but still think they need some wire wheel attention. And then there's one more trick up my sleeve for these. The last thing I'm gonna do, Neil Kof from Neil Kof Dig Drive DIY, he's working on a dump truck right now. I saw him use this on the channel, so I shot him a text. I said, did you really like the stuff, Neil? He said he was pretty impressed with it. So the last step, we're gonna take this OSFO rust converting acid, do not breathe, the whole time, or just do not breathe the product. What's this fancy thing it came with? Oh. Balance formula of phosphoric acid, dichromates, wetting agents, and extenders. That's what I thought was in it. That's what it looked like. It is environmentally safe and non-flammable. Yep, most phosphoric acid is super safe for the environment. That's good. It is pre-diluted in this container, let dry for 24 hours, and apply paint. These manifolds are expensive, by the way. I was kind of surprised when I looked them up to get a new one. So we're spending some time trying to get a couple more miles out of these. Second coat on this. So while we're waiting on a couple things to dry paint-wise, next few days is supposed to be rain days, and I want to get set up and prepped and ready, and I'm hoping to get this cab put back together. I'd like to slide it inside the barn. Should be able to. Just got to do a little prep work. So this is the front clip off of the F350. We're not going to be using it for obvious reasons, but I was saving it so I can get the dimensions for the front clip on the 7.3 from that other truck. But this has quite a few differences in it, and I actually just don't feel like messing with it time-wise, and we've been doing really well on selling stuff off that parts truck that it's completely paid for at this point. So I went ahead and just ordered a new front clip for 200 bucks off eBay to save me some time. But I do need some things off of this, and there's a couple things off of that I can take off and sell. So, let's see. I want this little intake box. We can buy the ductwork for that, but this little plastic piece is what directs air up to the breather. Here we go. One thing I've learned searching eBay and looking up parts is all these little random miscellaneous brackets that are on these front clips. You can sell them on eBay for a decent amount of little money. They're also small, easy to ship, and I can throw them in that parts cleaner I got now. Get them all cleaned up, looking good. I don't have to worry about it being a part that worked or didn't work as far as the running engine goes. This is something I can sell. They can look at the pictures and say, yep, that's what I need, and I can ship it off. for starters, we better maximize that. And get that out of the way. That's about it. I mean, it's going to be a little tight, but I think we'll have enough room. The hardest part's going to be getting the dash in. These things look incredible, by the way. Neil Kof was spot on these. I mean, it looks like new cast. Because it is cast though, and I'm assuming it's going to soak a bunch of this stuff up, it's porous, I'm going to do another coat on it. Then we'll store them inside and let them dry overnight. I am blown away by how well this works. And this little bit's gone a long way, and this jug was not overly expensive. So transmission is mounted and good to go. The PTO pump is mounted and good to go. The tank, we've got a plan for. I'm a little worried about the drive shaft clearance, but it is all painted up and cleaned up and ready to go and be mounted. And the exhaust manifolds are cleaned up and set and ready to go for the next step, which will be getting them painted and then mounted, and then we can get the exhaust out from underneath the cab. And speaking of the cab, it is ready to go inside here, so the next few days we can try to get all of this buttoned up, and then hopefully whenever we go to pull it out, it goes straight onto the truck. That's the goal. Well, honestly, you know what? This is great. This is a good day. I'll take it. I think if I shove this to one side, I can get the dash in. I wonder if the dash will fit through the transmission tunnel.